Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, a declining birth rate. More and more people are deciding not to have children.
We're not taking care of the people who are already here.
The procreation debate.
People that have the majority of the kids are the ones that shouldn't be having kids.
I'm grateful that I have the choice to be able to have as many children, as little children as I want.
We definitely need white babies. All these other races don't do nothing but destroy.
I think you've pretty much pissed off everybody. Raise your hand if you think society should continue having children. Raise your hand. Okay, that's most of you. Raise your hand if you think society should stop having children. Well, that's a fair amount of you. Well, we're going to talk about that today. From the beginning of the 20th century onwards, the global birth rate increased sharply. Unfortunately, today, that trend, well, it has stopped. A 2021 survey from Pew Research Center says about 44% of people ages 18 to 49 say it's not too likely or not at all likely that they'll have children. And 74% of parents say they are not likely to add another child to their lives. Now, fears about declining fertility rates have come from sources as diverse as Pope Francis, Nick Cannon, and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Now, Musk repeatedly tweets that underpopulation is the biggest threat to civilization. But is that really true? Around the world, those who resist procreation are leading birth striker movements, and all across social media, people are celebrating child-free living. Now, some think the human population should just become extinct altogether. Threats of economic, environmental, and even racial changes have many people asking, is it smart to have children? Now, I'll be introducing my guest today gradually in order to have a more open discussion. So I'd like to first introduce Dr. Britt Ray. Now, Dr. Ray is author of Generation Dread, Finding Purpose in an Age of Climate Crisis. Dr. Daniel Potter, fertility expert, who you may remember from last season. Les Knight, founder of the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement. And Anton Daniels, entrepreneur, youth mentor, content creator, and dad of one child. So thank you all for being here. Britt, let me start with you. The birth rate's slowing. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
So while the population growth rate is much lower than it used to be, it's about half of what it was 60 years ago, that doesn't imply an imminent population crash. We're actually still, as a global family of humans, adding 80 million people to our ranks every year. That's about the population size of Germany. Now, demographics are shifting within that. Elon Musk is not wrong to say that we're on a downward slope, but when characterized as being the biggest threat to humanity, even more crucial than the climate crisis, that's not only wrong, but it's really crass in terms of what it says about his disconnection from people's everyday suffering right here, right now, because of the climate crisis.
Dr. Potter, what are your concerns if people stop having children?
Well, I mean, a lot of our assumptions in terms of planning our government, our programs for people, make assumptions about how many taxpayers are going to be able to pay into the system. And, you know, if you don't replace the people who die, you're going to either have to bring in immigrants or see the population shrink, and you're going to have a bunch of old people with no one to pay the bills.
Les, you take a completely different approach to this, right?
Certainly do, yes.
You're involved with an extinction movement.
Correct.
You basically say we just need to live long and die out. We just need to feed, not breed. Is that what you say?
Feed them, don't breed them. Yes, that's right. We're not taking care of the people who are already here. My plan is for everyone to think before they procreate. And if people really think about it, think it all the way through, and have the wherewithal not to procreate, which is a really big problem all over the planet. And if people think about it, as you mentioned, 44% of young people are saying, no, I don't think we want to do that. It's because they've thought about it. And if we all stop procreating, we'll go extinct slowly. We can clean up our messes as we go. And the biosphere, what's left of it, will have a chance to recover.
I asked you guys in the beginning how many of you thought we should continue to breed. Most of you said yes. Anton here, who's joining us, says a certain group of people shouldn't have children at all. Take a look.
I don't believe that poor people should be having children. Having children when you don't have money creates more problems for the kids and society at large. And let's be honest, it's the middle class and more importantly, rich people that are now responsible for paying for poor people's children. I know it's an unpopular truth, but I believe that every person should pass a test proving that they're income worthy prior to having kids. It's a false narrative that's being sold to people that you're entitled to have children and you don't need the resources or the money to be able to pay for them or support them. Having kids is way too easy, and the people that's having the most kids tend to be the worst people in society. I think it's irresponsible, and just because you don't like it don't mean that it's not the truth, and you're not entitled to have kids just because you can.
Well, okay. What do you feel is an appropriate income for families wanting to have children?
Well, it depends on where you live in the United States, right, first. But more importantly, I think that it is important to acknowledge that the people that have the majority of the kids are the ones that shouldn't be having kids. And then that becomes a burden on the people that actually have resources, which we then start to say, take more resources from people that have, and then we become a socialist society where we start to pass out more resources and then we babysit. We make our teachers become overglorified babysitters instead of being able to actually teach. Because if you've grown up in the environments that I've grown up in, even though we had resources, you realize that most of these environments and teachers and these kids become latchkey kids and they don't have the resources. And then you take into consideration that inflation is at an all-time high and it's becoming more and more expensive every single year in order to give a kid the resources that they need in order to be able to thrive.
Reproductive freedom. I think that's the most important thing we need today. Hundreds of millions of couples are denied their right to not procreate. But you were mentioning
how's that, though?
Oh, go ahead.
How are they denied that right?
They do not have the contraceptive services, reproductive health services that they need. Those are not provided. And maybe people should supply their own, but they can't afford it because they're having more offspring that they can't feed.
Where's that?
Just about everywhere. Try to get a sterilization here in America when you haven't had kids and you're only 22.
That's true.
We're not allowing people to not breed.
We see people like that all the time, and you can put an IUD in. A copper IUD is effective for 10 years. It's inert.
Have you ever walked in a grocery store and seen a lady with a bonnet on her head with 8 kids walking behind her? You think that she's being responsible? You think that she's really taking into consideration what she's supposed to do responsibly? You think that she's not on Section 8 housing? You don't think that we paying for her to house her kids who's probably gonna grow up and steal my wheels off my car?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a reality. I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear. I'm here to tell the truth.
How did we get to the wheels on you?
Because the people that are having kids are some of the worst in society, and when you put them in an environment and they have to be raised without the resources in order for them to be able to thrive, often at times they become the ones that we have to take care of. Whether it be the prisons that we build for them or the social services that we have to create for them, and they do not become more educated and do things differently, they breed more. That's what happens.
I disagree with all this crap that I hear. I grew up with 6 brothers and 7 sisters at a time when, I grew up on a plantation in Alabama, and we grew up in a little hut house, bathroom outside. And my family raised an amazing family, children. But what the difference was then than it is now is that before you had babies, you got married. So you have the father and the mother in the home. And while the father was out earning a living, the mother was watching over his children. And so you were able to raise decent children. We didn't have government in our lives at the time. And so we were able to do that. And in America, we were not allowed all these illegal aliens and refugees to come into our country. So our government were not taking care of folks from other parts of the world and the families in America. We took care of ourselves.
I think you've pretty much pissed off everybody. but you said there's not anything you've heard that you don't think is crap. So what do you think? You said what you don't think. What do you think?
I know that we need to restore the family. We need a smaller government because government don't make anything work. They screw you up. We need to stop taking care of women who are having these babies out of wedlock.
Correct.
We need to stop taking care of these women who are coming from other countries. We need to stop taking care of their babies.
Okay,
We need to take care of American families first by getting them away from the government and restoring order.
Okay, you're a pastor, right?
Yes,
And you're a radio host?
yes.
Okay, and you said you believe white people should have more children?
We definitely need white babies. And I tremble at the idea that white babies, that the white group is going down in numbers, because if you lose white folks, America, it's over for America. Because if you notice, white people tend to be more innovative. They're more creative. They have ideas about things. All these other races don't do nothing but destroy. They don't build,
But
they
he's wrong.
destroy.
He's wrong.
I said you'd piss off everybody. I was wrong. Now you pissed off everybody.
My name is Jenny. My husband and I currently have 4 children, and I am currently pregnant with baby number 5. This is an extra special pregnancy for my husband and I, as our little girl was diagnosed with Down syndrome. A lot of people ask me, why would bring a child with Down syndrome into this world? We believe that we are being sent an extra special little spirit from God. We love having children, and we love watching them learn and grow and become the amazing human beings they are and contribute to the world around them. One thing that does worry me is the state of the world. We recently bought a 170-acre farm, and we're learning to grow our own food. We do feel that you should be somewhat responsible financially before you have children, but kids really don't need that much and don't cost that much. They need your love and attention more than anything else.
Well, Jenny, who you just saw, is 43 years old and 23 weeks pregnant, who posts about her journey online. But many people ask her why she's having a 5th child. You've been asked that a lot, right?
Oh, yes.
And how do you answer that?
I believe I'm grateful that I have the choice to be able to have as many children, as little children as I want. I'm grateful I live in a country where I have that choice as a woman. People think we're crazy after raising teenagers, we're starting all over again, but that just shows how much we've enjoyed doing it so far.
Well, I disagree with one thing you said, which is babies don't cost that much. It does cost money to raise a child.
But Dr. Phil, one of the reasons...
Well, hang on just a second. You've had your hand up for a long time back there.
My biggest concern with our overpopulation crisis, either way you see it, is that we have over 400,000 children in the U.S. foster care system.
Correct.
A lot of these kids don't even have a chance because no one wants to adopt them and people want to keep having children of their own. But my question is, if a lot of these people say, well, I couldn't love a foster child or an adopted child the way I love my own flesh and blood. Why is that? Do you really want to be a parent, or is it something else you want?
One of the imperatives here as people is to procreate. It's to have children. It's genetically wired into us. It's our purpose. You've talked about that in having your children. And Robin and I have 2 sons. And I have to say, it was what motivated us and gave us purpose in life and purpose in living. And I believed for a long time that the reason that Robin was put on this earth was to be a mother. And I believed that until they had children, and then I believed she was put on this earth to be a grandmother. We all have a reason for being. And I've never had more of a passion and a purpose than when I became a father. I've never seen my boys have more of a passion and a purpose to contribute to this world than when they became fathers. And I think it's just part of the natural rhythm of being human beings. Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.